Welcome back to another exciting episode of Above the Clouds. I'm your host, Daniel Humphreys, and once again, we're diving deep into the cloud technology universe. Today, we've got my friend joining us, Ricardo Moreira, Principal DevOps Manager at Vodafone Business and IT, part of the Vodafone Group. Ricardo has been with the telecoms giant for over a decade, starting out within software development to leading their DevOps function. We first met at the Cloud Expo Europe and DevOps Live last year or earlier this year even, where he was doing a fantastic talk on diversity and the positive impact of high-performing DevOps teams. Ricardo brings a wealth of experience and knowledge with him to the podcast, and we hope you guys enjoy. So, Mr. Moreira, thrilled to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Dan, for your invitation. It's my pleasure to be here and to share my experience.
That's fantastic. So DevOps, it's where it all began for me in the technology world about 3 years ago. But where did it all begin for you?
Well, I need to go almost back to the 90s, where I start my interest about technology and doing software development. So back on those days, I remember it was the industry about Visual Basic, Pascal, a bit of COBOL later on. And the dawn of the first Agile manifesto as well, that something needs to change and improve in the industry. So yes, I was still very young, but I was already following the trends. Since very young, I noticed that if we want to be up to the speed of the game, because these industries keeps evolving, you need to follow the trends. You need to understand what is happening in the big scheme. So I've been blessed because I've done some freelance working back on the days, so that allowed me to follow up the industry and the transformation of the industry until where we are right now. So obviously the industry gives you, let's say, too much pressure for you to deliver with quality and how you should do your software development. Things they were built, let's say, several frameworks with the best practices to address these questions. The manifesto, I believe, it's where everything started, pretty much. Then fast forward, yes, I started as a software developer. Then I had the challenge that was offered to me of a previous company where I worked before, to build, let's say, a mixed team with an end-to-end capacity. So really in the beginning of the stage, the buzzword that DevOps is right now. So I started that in that company, but not with the big word that nowadays everybody knows as a DevOps. And now seeing, let's say, having results, positive results, not only for the company, for the customer, and from the teams that were doing this kind of, let's say, approach to the work. Because DevOps, it's a way of working, it's not a position. So it's the way a team address the way they work. It's a team that it's multi-skilled and is responsible for the entire life cycle. And that's bring us where I am right now. So before where I am right now, I've been with the DevOps COE in Vodafone VBIT. So starting the transformation there. So there were, in those days, those early days, there were teams that were more mature than other ones. So there are more people that are open to these new trends. Others say, if it is working well, why we need to change? And sometimes you need to prove that there is always a continuous improvement process that you should address. And nowadays, I'm the principal DevOps manager in VBIT inside of the digital channels.
Awesome. So you've got quite the experience then, goes quite far back to the 90s. When you say you were working on DevOps before it was coined DevOps, did you have a name for it then?
It was funny because on that company, people tend to say, Ricardo, you kind of a silo from the wider company they were working, but you're bringing results to the table. Yes, you have an end-to-end team. They were doing operations, but not only operations, they were doing development as well. So they had the end-to-end vision, and we were already building automation. When CI/CD was not even, let's say, a jargon in the industry, we were already looking forward how we could automate our not infrastructure or deployments. via scripting or via open source tools that already exist from long time ago, but just now that is the big thing right now. Not right now, but I would say the last 7-8 years, it comes to be more trendy, obviously, because that gives more time for the engineers to do what the engineer loves to do most, that is creation, be creative. So that unleash more the power of a team. If you get a team that is only get paid and of engineers just to do manual stuff and spend hours and hours with repetitive stuff, they're going to be bored, and you're not going to get the full potential of an individual. And not even speak about the team itself, because the sum of the different individuals and the different skills that they bring to the table in that given team, that makes the strength of the core of the team. So it's breaking a bit of the barrier about the silo team, like you have developers, you have, let's say, QA, you have a DBA team, and then no, let's have everyone following the same value stream of the deliverable.
And do you see DevOps developing at all even further? I mean, I keep on hearing the term DevEx, right? Yeah, is that connected to DevOps, or is
connected? Everything is connected. So DevEx, development experience. So
is that something you're doing?
Yes, definitely. So it's something that we should do if we want to keep, let's say, keep evolving. We never should stop. Nowadays, not only DevOps, but I heard people talking about DevSecOps as well. Another big jargon. It's all the same if you ask me, okay? Probably people gonna refute, Ricardo, but before security was not attached to DevOps, blah, blah, blah. But again, I always said that the team needs to have all the skills inside of that team. Security needs to be a principle, like it's non-negotiable. You should have security in mind, especially nowadays, on that team. If you have a DevOps team, you not only have operations, you have development, and you should have security, but you should have QA as well if you want. And then you have the experience of the DevOps. About the experience of DevOps is not their working experience. It's more about the ecosystem. It's like providing the right tools for the developers. Giving an example, you have a painter. If you give the painter, let's say, the wrong tools, is he going to paint properly your home? Probably not. So it's all about giving the right tool set and give the freedom for creativity, if that's the case.
Going back to what you said around how DevOps isn't a role, it's a way of working. Coming from a tech recruitment background myself, and especially over 2020 to 2022, it's like every man and their dog wanted to hire a DevOps engineer into their team, but the definition of what a DevOps engineer was different every time a job spec went out, right? So, is that something that is defined now? For me, not being a technologist myself, but working with you guys, it seems that a DevOps engineer is someone who sits in the middle of the DevOps function and connects everything together. And is it almost that DevEx enabler?
Well, it depends of the context that you want to put a DevOps. If you need an enabler to build your automation, I will try, but that's me, my humble opinion. I will try to avoid to keep the name of that person DevOps. Probably a hero, because that's the person everyone goes if things goes south, let's say. So that person in a big ecosystem would be, I don't know, I'm trying to avoid an SRE, an automation person, because DevOps is more than automation, is way more than that. And that's why I'm trying to take out the DevOps word just for, let's say, a very limited of scope, because it's not. Because DevOps is pretty much the way you work together as one team without silos. It's like putting human interactions in front of anything else as a part of a core team, as a family, as a working family, as you are together, either for the success or if things go wrong, and you are together to fix. You have the responsibility to automate that. Now, going back in some of the roles, that the definition that Well, as a starter, I don't believe in roles that they call DevOps. Because if you're going to see the description, that's going to change or varies depending of company to company. I don't know about their context and their background, but probably what they are looking for is someone that or knows or wants to change the mentality or the mindset to be an open mindset to the DevOps culture, or you are looking for someone that could, let's say, bring you the capacity or the expertise of the automation that sometimes lacks in the teams. If you have just purists developers or purist operations, and you need someone that coins you that automation, that the glue that's gonna connect these teams. But if you need that glue to connect these teams, that means you are already working on silos, and DevOps means working with no silos. Again, Google gave a name about this kind of middle team, the site reliability engineering. That could be a good name, but again, I think you should address even these names that other companies, they come up with the big jargons. I think the big buzz, not buzzword, but the buzz team that would be is, if you want to deliver a product, deliver with no silos. Yeah. Deliver with no middle management, deliver as a car. Delivering as a car, that's what makes the principles or the basics of the DevOps. Yeah. Because DevOps, it's all about, you focus about building stuff. You don't go, well, I'm gonna leave the bit of operations for later on, but I was already going to the operation, but DevOps is one team only.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, I know I definitely agree with what you say there. It is a confusing landscape sometimes. Yes. You know, we'll have a cloud engineer, a platform engineer, and a DevOps engineer, you know, walk into the bar, but they're all drinking the same drink, right?
Call it whatever you want.
Yeah. Cool. In regards to DevOps, though, as a methodology, as a way of working, if there's an organization or enterprise, or small, medium, or large, and they're bringing it, they're in that initial stage of bringing in those DevOps practices into their ways of working, what's the initial, what's the largest initial impact that they'll see from working in that way?
Well, the initial impact would be going to the market faster. That will be the first big impact. Having the team more happy and committed because they feel part of the solution, not part of the problem. Mm-hmm. And the knowledge stays in the company. I think that helps to share knowledge more. It's not to think about, I've got the knowledge, I'm not sharing, so that's another person problem, so another silo. And that loop of taking time usually makes the customer, that is the person, could be internal or external, very unhappy, because where is what I ask you for? And that is lost somewhere in some process that has been a long process and being, let's say, throw around teams. Mm-hmm. DevOps says that you should have close loop with the customer as well. Deliver as soon as you got it, deliver, and deliver as one team.
Fantastic, fantastic. Has there been any memorable experiences where the DevOps approach has transformed a project or a team dynamic in your experience with Vodafone?
Yes, I've got so many, but I remember a case at a team, they were arguing between ops and dev, so they were used to the really old school tradition that you've got software development, and when you've got someone goes to the release, they still stuck in the waterfall style. So they were taking longer a feature to reach the production environment, let's say months. So the first stage where they were a bit skeptic about, no, this is a bit lunatics. I think we're gonna break everything. But that took what, 4 weeks, that everyone started to realize, like, oh, we actually sharing knowledge. Actually, we share the same problems. Actually, it's not problem of operation or problem of the development. We have the same problem. We need to find the solution together. Oh, actually, there are ways, there are patterns that we can deliver faster into production. Either the customer wants it now or later, but at least we have time to do automation testing. without wasting, let's say, a month for the testing just a given feature. And that's what ended up that project that was in the beginning, let's say, a big monolith, like the techies call it, to end up all of this year right now. I believe that project is entirely done in microservices. So it was a big monolith with old school, and right now is a successful project, microservices, delivering features per day. So that's one of the biggest impacts that I saw in a project, and was one of the projects that were the ones against DevOps culture and not change, be everybody's happy, but took 4 weeks to everyone to realize, oh, actually there is something. So that was a really eye-opening for everyone, I believe.
So essentially what you're telling me is you're a glorified marriage counselor between dev and ops.
Well,
that's a joke.
It's more leading by example, because some of the things that I changed, I needed to change myself.
Sure.
And show it works, and they start to get the grasp. I don't think those marital counselors, they do that.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. All right, everyone. It's time now to sort of dive into the heart of the show. So for the guys listening to for the first time, potentially, this will be the Above the Clouds rating. So let me walk you through it. I'll be reaching into a lovely off-screen cloud-shaped hat and pulling out 3 industry buzzwords that have everyone buzzing. Ricardo will be our guide answering these questions on these topics, sharing insights and giving us his honest evaluation on how these buzzwords truly measure up. So we're using a scale from 0 to 10. And here's the scoop: a perfect 10 means it's a game changer of the cloud technology, soaring high above the clouds, hence the name. A 5 means it's solid, on point, but not necessarily revolutionary. And a 0, well, that's just where the industry jargon and empty buzzwords land. No real substance to see here. So Ricardo, your first buzzword is cloud optimization. There's one I've heard quite frequently in the market, quite, especially with how the market is at the moment. A little bit of uncertainty in 2023, or should I say, quite a lot of uncertainty in 2023. People cutting costs, trying to make sure that bottom line is in the green. But the thing is, it seems like there's quite a lot of words for cloud optimization going around. We discussed this on previous podcasts. FinOps, for example, do they mean the same thing?
Yes and no, but they are connected. They are strictly connected.
How would you define cloud optimization then? For our listeners?
Okay, cloud optimization for fine-tuning your cloud resources for the higher performance and spending the less money as possible. So I think it's very self-explanatory, which means in the end is, let's say you have a sportive car, but you don't have the engine running 24/7 on your doorstep. No, but you love your sportive car. So you just turn on the key when you need to drive the car. So nowadays, that's about cloud. You can love your sport car, but then you're going to think about the cost of maintenance, the fuel of the car. You're not going to run the car 24/7. The same applies to the cloud, especially nowadays that everyone is cutting down, the budgets are very restrictive. And not only that, it's very easy sometimes on the clouds. If we don't have, let's say, the FinOps or a proper monitoring program on the top of your cloud, you can, let's say, slip between the guardrails. You can be on that risk, and you don't want to be on that risk. So when you're building your cloud, first and foremost, you need to think about, okay, I need to monitor and control my costs, putting the guardrails in place. I don't want to turn the key of my, let's say, super race car 24/7. I need to just turn the car when I need, or to warm up the engine when I believe I'm going to start to need my car. So I need to cut my costs there. So
I really like that analogy actually with the sports car. It almost sort of brings me back into my teenage days where you bolt on a massive exhaust on the back of your 306 because it looks nice and it looks fancy and it sounds beefy, but does it do anything for performance? No. It costs a lot of money. Yes. It takes all the back
exactly the
pressure
same.
away. No, I love that. I love that. I mean, it's a very rapidly evolving landscape, cloud all the time. And that momentum is just, continuing further and further, from the start of the pandemic, and it's still rolling down that hill and building speed. What emerging trends and innovative techniques have caught your attention in the realm of cloud optimization?
Well, on this one, I cannot run away from Kubernetes. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is a major player. If someone forget this one, I think he doesn't understand a bit about where the cloud is going. Everyone is adopting,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously Kubernetes comes with a catch that I recommend everyone before they start adopting Kubernetes. Goes through a transition stage about learning how to use Kubernetes, the patterns of design of Kubernetes, because otherwise you could end up where you don't want to end up, having a bumpy road ahead. But by the way, Kubernetes is the way forward, at least on my perspective, on my humble opinion. And the other thing being this serverless architecture, being able to, let's say, not having, obviously it's in the end of the day it's always a server, but in the cloud industry, having the capacity, let's say, to use functions on demand to do some actions and not needing that car to be ready and running and turning 24/7. That would be, let's say, the emerging trends right now that I would see, and they will keep evolving around cloud.
So they enable cloud serverless and Kubernetes. That's something that I think most of our listeners will agree with. But do they enable cloud optimization? Do they cost more? Do they make things more complicated, or do they actually, if done right, make things simpler and actually you can cut costs with those?
That's a really good one. Thank you. Because Kubernetes will enable you, for instance, to have more control about your infrastructure, about the auto scaling. I know that you can have auto scaling out of the blocks, but Kubernetes gives you more in power to have your own auto scaling. What auto scaling means is, okay, again, going to the analogy of the cars, if you need a faster car, all of a sudden it can give you more horsepower when you only need it. So you don't need to have all of those RPMs under the hood. The other thing about this is if you don't have idle resources. So even giving the example about the serverless architecture, so there's nothing idle. It just happens to happen when needs to happen. So that's the other thing. And obviously, this gonna, if you use just spaces per needed your cloud, you are controlling, so you're having a high performance platform, because you know that you have that sportive car there and it will show up when you need it most, and everything is under control. But again, these technologies, so Kubernetes enables you that and enables you that control for the scaling. Got a more, let's say, more granularity of control to the scaling.
Sure. Now, I'm going to throw in another buzzword which has come on the show: sustainability. And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like sustainability and cloud optimization often go hand in hand. How can cloud optimization strategies align with eco-friendly practices, right? And then therefore contribute to reducing things like carbon footprint of tech organizations?
Well, as you know, the computing is all about energy, and computing power demands energy. As much computer power you need, more energy it will be needed. So as a starter, so if you don't have, if you're scaling up when you need, and you don't have any idle resources on, that means you're going to spend less energy. If you're going to spend less energy, that means your footprint, your carbon footprint is going to be less. At the same time, if you choose, let's say, data centers that could use renewable energies, am I thinking about having an on-prem data center that could have solar panels, for instance? That's another way you could kind of decrease your footprint. But it's really important here is the same way you don't waste water nowadays into your home, you don't keep your tap open. The same applies to the cloud. You don't keep using the resources that you don't need. You just use per demand. So if you use per demand exactly what you need, that means in the end of the day, you're going to be not wasting energy. So, and the energy resources, we know that nowadays, it's not only about the cost. Obviously, there is the cost implied, and the companies love the cost, but we need to think about our planet as well, and about the energy, where the energy is coming from. And we don't have, let's say, we don't have 100% renewable energies right now. So we need to be conscious about resources.
So back to the analogy, cloud optimization, it makes your car more reliable and cost less at the petrol pump. And when you're going around a cheeky corner, you can trust it will grip.
Pretty much.
Cool. All right, scores on the doors then. Cloud optimization, where are we in the clouds?
Where are we going to the clouds, right? To the future of the clouds. What do you mean? Sorry.
Yeah. Out on our scale of 0 to 10. 0 being rubbish and 10 being 10.
I will give a 10 to the cloud optimization, definitely.
Cloud optimization's #1 fan, Ricardo Moreira. Love it.
I am definitely.
Excellent. Let's get on to topic number 2, and I've been waiting for this one. Web-3. So one that I actually don't know much about, and that's why I've been waiting for it. So someone to actually tell me what this Web3 is all about. I have an inkling, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I have an inkling it has something to do with blockchain, and how that working loosely. Is this the same thing? But also, what happened to Web2? Where's Web2? Is it still here? What's going on?
Okay, well, I think we need to record another podcast session on this topic, but I will try to be brief about this. So Web2 is still around. So Web2 is what everybody knows about it. Let's say.
So that's what we're using now to speak on Zoom, right?
Yes, because it's we have a centralized entity that in this case is Zoom, that is allowing us to communicate. While on the Web3, it's a decentralization. It's a peer-to-peer, where blockchain, it's let's say a strategic player. It's I'm trying to avoid the word of being the core of Web3, because it's not, but it's one of the most important technologies for the Web3 for this decentralization. Why? Because blockchain is a decentralized ledger. Okay. So what the blockchain allows you, let's say you've got several transactions, and the blockchain is going to record those transactions in blocks. And those blocks not going to be, let's say, in the hands of any company. They're going to be distributed across your computer, my computer, in the cloud, everyone. And those blocks, they are immutable, they are transparent, they are secure, at least until today. I'm not going to say it's bulletproof, because on IT, if there is something that I learned, there is nothing bulletproof, but until today, it's almost, let's say...
So far, so good.
So far, so good. And that's what allows you. What that's going to enable you are, let's say, contracts and open contracts. When I'm saying open contracts, is they are transparent. Let's say legal, you need to a contract to happen. That's going to enable you to have a contract to happen. But well, let's try to avoid the contracts right now. Let's go back to the Web3, more to the Web3 explanation about decentralization. So the users have the control of their own data and identity as well. This is really important, because that means you don't have a third party to tell who you are, to say, no, it's Ricardo talking, for instance. Or I'm thinking about the financial, that was a very, very trendy until, let's say, last year or a couple of years, I had several friends of mine talking about the cryptocurrency and
Crypto, yeah, I mean NFTs, yeah.
That was a big thing. Well, it's still a big thing. It's calmed down a bit, okay? But this is the start, let's say, to have a democratic web, if we want to call it like that. So, but there are problems about this, and I'm going to try to address those issues later on. So, going back with the blockchain technology. So, the blockchain technology is what allow you doing this, the immutability, security with the smart contracts, allow you to have a web that is more close to the user and less dependent of big corporations to do the data, whatever they want to do with your data, for the best and for the worst, both ways. Giving an example, the big social medias, they are based on Web 2.0. A future social media based on Web 3.0, you don't need, let's say, you don't go for an entity like, I'm trying to avoid names, so, but a big social media, it's going to be a peer-to-peer, and you can share with whoever you want because the data is yours, and you're sharing, let's say, pretty much it's a one-to-one thing rather than I give you whatever I have and you distribute.
So you could almost like sell your own data for ads rather than a company doing it on your behalf.
Oh, exactly. That completely finished. But now comes the, let's say, the gray area. So are you going to do a regulation of a market like this one when the data is the blockchain? Because as I mentioned, the blockchain, it's a big chain of blocks that are in every one computer. So let's say I've got a friend in Portugal, another one in Spain, and another one in the United States, another one in Japan. And I can have my blockchain distributed across all these systems, these countries, and they all have different regulations. What will happen then? That is one of the biggest questions. Obviously, there are already ways that is still very experimental, trying to, let's say, to fill that gap, but we know that we always need a regulation body. I'm talking about right now about the decentralized organizations. It is a thing in the Web 3.0, but it's still way, let's say, it's not mature. Another example about Web 3, and that probably going to make everyone to understand, realize why there is myth about, but we are still on Web 2.0 and about where Web 3 got legs to go ahead or not, what is going on is electric cars exist for over 100 years, if I'm not mistaken. So the concept of going back to the cars, because we started with the cars.
Wait, let's roll with it.
Well, let's roll. So, and I think it's a good example. So electric cars, the concept exists for over 100 years. And just now, electric cars start to kick in, and we all know. And why? The technology evolved.
Yeah.
Web 3.0 is exactly the same. The technology is amazing. It's amazing what could enable, what could the transparency, could even, let's say, chase, I'm not saying the fake news, but at least we can know the source and origin of a news. Let's say someone wants to throw a news, if throws with Web 3.0, we know for sure whom is throwing that news out. If that's true or not, that's I'm no one to judge that, but at least we know the source of origin without having a third party telling me, hey Ricardo, listen, the news is from whatever we expecting you to believe or whatever. So nobody's choosing from me on my behalf what I want to listen, what I want to read. This is one of the examples. Another example is having a decentralized, the DeFi, decentralized finance. And that could be another big problem here, because again, going back, you need to have regulation on that, because otherwise this can go both ways. It's go very good or can go very bad, especially the scammers. And well, let's not even go there.
I've got a question to ask, to be fair. With Web3, yeah, how do I put this? Is there any sort of real world use cases at the moment, or projects you've encountered that sort of exemplify its potentially transformative power, and And how does that align with cloud and the cloud industry, and what could Web3 enable, for what we're trying to achieve as engineers and as an industry?
Well, so much. So as I started in the security side, I'm thinking about straight away with that question, I think about logs. Logs, you can change logs, but if you've got a log in a blockchain, nobody can change. So that means I'm looking to a log, I know what is happening. So this is important on the security side. Or on the no operations, we can have a contract that we know, like I want this action to happen, and that blockchain can ensure that certain actions happen and will happen for sure, regardless, and nobody can change that. So this is part of what is important. But still, Web 3.0, it is something that the companies, and there are several that are already doing that, they need to invest in the training. It's not a simple technology. It's not a technology that you're going to say, okay, 1 + 1 = 2. No, it's a complex one. But what enables, I think it's great. But what I don't think is we don't have the infrastructure for that because, well, the computer power is not there yet. And it's probably going to be, let's say, probably our listeners going to be against it. But I think without quantum computing, Web3 is not going to be a big thing yet.
Why would our listeners be against quantum?
Well, there are so many people against or saying that is some things that will never happen. Others saying it's almost to happen. And it's been the last 10 years I'm hearing that. I think it's just a matter of time we get there. And when we get there, it's like the same as the electric cars 1 year ago. When we get there, then it's going to, when we're going to have to boom up to Web3. But we're going to be already on Web 4. It is funny enough, but that's in what I think, and it's what I believe. Because the blockchains right now, you need computer power to process all of these transactions in a safe way. And let's go back to the cloud optimization. And we've got a really good cloud optimization for what we want. It's the same as if you want to drive a car for 100 meters and you're really willing to spend a petrol. With another car, you can do, let's say, 1,000 miles, something like this. So we're still not there. The technology is awesome. It's still lots of steps that we need to do.
Still early days.
Yes, still very early days, I would say. But if it is an exciting technology, it is. Because another thing, I almost forgot to mention this. I believe the Web 3.0 is bringing more the mix about the cybernetic world to the real world. So not only about the blockchain, but you have the AR thing that is a thing about Web3 and the AI. I'm going to try to avoid that AI jargon because this is just based on predictability and mathematical algorithms. It's not yet an intelligence, but no, not big, but when we get to the quantum, then probably we're going to have a very leap jump around the technology that we are using nowadays. The internet, as we see, is going to be very different. Because another important aspect about Web 3.0 is enabling the power of the IoT. Now, yes, we can see the power of the IoT working together as a one. As when we were talking about DevOps, about being one team with different skills and the sum of the parts, that's what makes the strength of a team. The same applies with Web 3.0. Can you imagine having, let's say, an army of IoT components working together for the same goal? And Web 3.0 enables you that more than Web 2.0. Whereas Web 2.0, you always need, let's say, a middleman to handle all of that. You always need. You cannot run from it. But going back, we missed some aspects here about the beginning of the web. So the web started as just, I'm reading an internet, okay, I can read. And then the Web 2.0 enable you to interact with the web more. And the Web 3.0 is pretty much, okay, let's put the internet, as you know, all of these options that you can in your real life. Let's try to blend real life with the cybernetic life. So I think we just need to give time, okay? I think this is very exciting technology, if I'm honest with you.
Sure. All right then. Well done, by the way, because that was that. Yeah, I know there's a lot more subject matter there. We wrapped that up very well. Where are we thinking? Where are we thinking in the cloud surf for Web3? Where's it rank?
Well, because he still got a long road ahead, I would give a 5.
Okay, cool. So it's solid. It's definitely on the money, but you can't really innovate with it just yet because it's not ready.
Yes, not
Cool.
yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay, one to watch. We'll keep our eyes and ears peeled.
Definitely.
Let's look at what we've got next for our third topic, third and final topic even of the day. Interesting. Cloud agnostic. Okay, so probably a little bit of a different road to take from our original subject of cloud optimization. Interesting. How do you approach cloud agnostic from your perspective?
Well, as I started, in my opinion, that's really important for you to be cloud agnostic. So how I address this is having microservice architectures and containerization. No wonder I mentioned Kubernetes earlier. And with that, you're not reduced, you don't have what everybody calls a vendor lock-in. Okay, you're not, and at the same time, you can extract the best of several cloud providers can give in a given moment. I know that the big players, they keeping the game more or less. I can enable you this new thing, this trend on the mark, and then you come another one, they keep fighting. But in the way for you to keep on the trend, and regardless the cloud, if you have this approach, if you need to migrate or if you need to use whatever cloud you want, you don't need to have a full-blown project. You just, okay, doesn't imagine like this. A new player comes to the market. Everyone wants, oh, let's go to that player, but you are vendor locked in. How are you going to do that? You need to spend lots of money, lots of resources, and you don't have that. But if you're already being portable, you just go there. You're not compliant to a vendor lock-in, let's say.
Are there any best practices or architectural principles that can guide businesses in creating robust and adaptable, but also optimized, right? Always go back to optimized cloud agnostic solutions.
Think about always scalability and portability. These are two of the big buzzwords for that. And around these two big buzzwords, prioritize automation. That would be the core for the best practices for the cloud agnostic.
Do you find that certain clouds work well with others and some don't? Don't be afraid to call them out.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to avoid that. So there are engineers, so let's say that Cloud A works best in a way with certain tools. Other engineers would say Cloud B is best for intelligence or data analytics. And then if you have something that is agnostic and can work with, let's say, 3 or 4 providers and extract the best of all worlds, you're going to end up having a more robust product and having your customers even more happy. Or in a way of security or stability, if one cloud is down, you can have the other cloud still on. So you can have that that doability level, having 99.99%, you having your product up. That's the other thing. What is important here to retain here is if you're not locked just one industry or one technology, you can always take the best of what the providers can give you. But if you are attached to, let's say, provider A, you can only get the best of provider A. But if you got provider B with the best, let's say, data analytics, and your product is data analytics, what are you going to do then? So you're going to lose that leverage against your competition. No, you need to be open-minded and be ready to adapt fast, especially in this industry.
We talked around multi-cloud before in a previous. Now, again, I'm going to try and throw something out there and see if I'm right. Multi-cloud to me seems like the solution, and cloud agnostic seems like the way of working. Is that sort of the way that these buzzwords fit?
Yes, I cannot say no. Thinking about it, yes, yes, exactly. That's my opinion. The solution is if you can enable and use the best of each provider, that's perfect. And the way of doing that is being cloud agnostic. There is no other way.
Is there any scenarios where cloud agnostic is not the right way to go?
Well, you could have, but those could be related with, let's say, previous negotiations or legacy systems that they can only work. They've been built only for that cloud and that cloud only. Those would be, let's say, the limitations I could see.
Okay. And obviously, going back to what you were saying around vendor lock-in, that's obviously a big concern, for many people. How does a cloud agnostic approach mitigate the risk associated with vendor dependencies? Does it in fact almost increase the chances of more vendor lock-ins in some instances, do you think?
No, I don't think so. So if you're cloud agnostic, you're not going to be vendor locked.
No.
You have your options open, you keep your options open. So what I'm meaning is keep the door open. Don't close your door to any vendor, to any new player that comes to the cloud. You never know. So it's the same as technology. You're not going to say no to a new technology because you're already using old technology. You need to try and taste that new and understand what is behind it to keep the rhythm and keep, let's say, to be on the ahead of your competition. Because otherwise, especially on IT, if you stay stuck in 10 years ago, you're going to be very easily outdated. Everyone going to pass over you, and then, what happened now? So you need to be, let's say, ready to change and be ready to adopt any new trend. I'm not thinking about if nowadays they've got a new product. I remember when the beginning of the Kubernetes, just one provider had them. And you could use just on that provider, for instance. But nowadays is not the case. But if they bring another new, let's say, great technology, I don't know what they are cooking behind the scenes. But if I'm ready to take over, like, this is going to be great, and I'm ready, I'm not tied into provider A, I can try that. And probably that's going to give me a leverage against my competition because I'm going to be ahead of the game. I'm going to be already trying something new and exciting.
I think I phrased it badly, but is it possible that you can be locked into more than one cloud vendor, by taking a cloud agnostic route? Is that not the case? You can't be locked in.
You can't be locked in if you do it well. So let's put things like this. If you have the microservice architecture and with the containerization, you can use at the same time as many cloud providers as you want, but now always comes the catch. There's going to be limitations that could be with, let's say, now going back to the cloud optimization, could be with the data transfer, for instance, or limitations between the technology that it's not like Web3 that the different blockchains, they could work together. Sometimes the different vendors, they find ways for the same kind of technology not works well with the competition. But these are the things that on IT, there is always ways of mitigate this. So there is always a way on IT. It's as long as you are creative, there is always ways.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I've heard in the industry, argued multiple times, is that multi-cloud, cloud agnostic isn't cloud optimized. It's overly complicated. There's running risks of multiplying
and disagree.
Yes, I thought you would.
Agree and disagree. Well, the part of I agree, I think that's easy, because engineers tend to over-engineering very easily any system. So that comes with the role of the position. Where I don't agree is, well, and again, I'm going back, giving example about, let's say if you have a cloud with a very strong data analytics and you need that, and you have another cloud provider that provides you, let's say, tools of automation that are really strong, and another cloud provider that gives you, let's say, neural intelligence or these new AI neural things. Like, you want the product and you have your customer that, I want this product. You look, okay, if I could have the capacity of Cloud A, Cloud B, Cloud C working together to me, I can have the product that exactly what my customer is expecting to have. So then I need to engineer for that to have the best resource. So to have the best results, if I've got a kind of, let's say, infrastructure designed for the goal that I am, if I'm going to design a product just for the fun of being cloud agnostic and just for the fun of using 3 or 4 providers, no, I'm wasting money, I'm wasting my time, and it's not cloud optimization. But if I'm using that to reach a goal, because otherwise, okay, but you could tell me, but Ricardo, but Cloud A can provide you all of that. Yes, but I can have an even better product using all the clouds. And if I'm already doing the microservices or this agnostic strategy to achieve that, that means the customer is going to be happy. If the customer is going to be happy, I'm going to succeed. Everybody's going to be happy, and we can be more, let's say, evolving faster, and we can be a step ahead of our competition. Obviously, we need always to do continuous improvement, because like I mentioned before, the vendors, they compete between them. So it's just a matter of time that, let's say, vendor A to have more or less the same as vendor B and vice versa. So this is all about the time to market, what you have right now, and what is your goal. Spending as less money, obviously, as possible to achieve your goal.
Cool. So you're a fan of Cloud Agnostic then, it seems?
Yes, I am. But there is no other way.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Where are we putting it on the scores then? Scores on the doors for Cloud Agnostic?
Right now, I would give 7.
7. Solid 7.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So rounding up scores of the day. So we've got cloud optimization, solid 10, 5 for Web3, and 7 for your cloud agnostic. Happy with that?
Yes, very happy.
Good. Cool. So that ends the main segment. Moving on to a little bit of fun. So this is the next part of the show called Top of the Ops. So ops in the tech world is like a vast galaxy of evolving concepts, and there's always a new star twinkling in the horizon, it seems. One example which I cannot avoid at the moment, and I've mentioned it before, we first discussed this in episode 3 with Rob and Billy from PwC, was LLM ops, if you can get your tongue around that. I have slowly mastered it, which stands for large language model operations. Now, from what I've learned, I didn't know much about it before, but it was something that we predicted would come up, but we were wondering what it was going to be. This involves optimizing the deployment and management of large language models, which is all the buzz at the moment, as everyone should be aware, I hope. If not, go check out OpenAI. But Ricardo, I'm curious, with your pulse on the industry, which ops has piqued your interest and curiosity lately, and what's driving that interest?
Well, let's be disruptive on this one. Good ops is having no ops. I know.
Oh, right.
Let's start from that point. So with the technologies that we have at our disposal right now, and with all the methodologies, ways of working, I'm thinking about the GitOps, having everything scripted since the changing left. Why do you still need ops, especially on the top of it, if you're going to use AI that this last year, let's say these last 12 months, been jumping a lot, because now we can have predictability to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
You can predict, same way you could do self-healing with infrastructure and have a prediction when you're using, let's say, mobile networks, and you can predict when you're going to be an event or there, and you can give more capacity or less, or scaling your resources in an automated way. So why do you still need ops for that if you now have the predictability capacity on your side? You still have a rules to get there, yes. Mm-hmm. So it's still not 100% no ops, but on my opinion, that would be the goal of the industry, of having no ops. And I'm saying this because it's so obvious with the tools that we've got right now, with us. AI is, I think, it's the tool that was missing to complete this puzzle. So now it's just to put the puzzle together, and allow the teams just to focus in the creative stuff. Now, probably going to tell me, but Ricardo, somehow you're going to need some kind of operations. Yes, probably, but not in the standards way of you touching your production environments or changing something there. Probably you're going to do in a creative way. You're going to probably, let's say, You're a painter. You're gonna retouch your picture that you're drawing. You're not gonna, let's say, you're not go to the customer house and retouch your paint. No, you retouch the beginning and right in the beginning. So NoOps, it's a way forward. On the top of it, with AI, with the predictability, you can do the self-healing, and you can, let's say, you can predict even when you have issues. Let's say you have a special day that you can understand from machine learning. That's another tool that you can use for this. For in that day, you're gonna have more users in a region X, and that could give you, let's say, have issues with your system. So the system could anticipate that and provide you, let's say, scale up, or even raise a flag to the team, guys, be ready, because on that day. But again, the goal here for me would be, and I think the big jargon that we need to come up nowadays, it's no ops. What is good ops for you? It's no ops. But no ops doesn't mean that no ops is more, it's the nirvana, it's the way forward. Yes, that's where I believe we should go.
I love it. I'd come across no ops before, but I didn't know what it meant. So thank you very much for sharing. Awesome. So I guess that wraps up the show today very nicely. For the listeners at home, we sincerely appreciate you joining us for this insightful conversation with Ricardo and me. We trust you found it engaging and thought-provoking. Keep those podcast apps primed, because our next episode is just around the corner, brimming with more intriguing insights from another remarkable guest. Remember to hit the like button, share with fellow tech enthusiasts, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a beat. For the latest updates on the show and future episodes, connect with us on LinkedIn, both on my profile and Lawrence Harvey's. A heartfelt thank you goes out to you, Ricardo. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really informative. I've loved the conversation. Thanks for sharing your expertise and experience with us. It's been a real pleasure having you as our guest here on Above the Clouds. As per tradition, do you have a hot take to leave our listeners with?
All right.
And only one, because I know what you're like.
Only one. Okay. Think about Web 3.0 could be a game changer.
Excellent. Excellent. The future. Cool. There you go, folks. Thanks again. And we'll see you on another episode next time. Thanks and goodbye.